it's entitled "Divorce is Better Than Staying in a Bad Marriage." However that sounds. Gangshen is a licensed architect in California, and he ran for the mayor position in Irvine in 2016. He has not only some, but he has a quite significant interest in the research of relationships and has given us a few speeches on this subject. Today he's going to give us another speech. As I said, divorce is better than staying in a bad marriage. Would you help me welcome Gang?
Thank you, John. Dear fellow Toastmaster and honored guest, Don, I'm happy to give my speech number 8 today. My speech is entitled, Divorce is Better Than Staying in a Bad Marriage. Last week, in the morning when I was eating my breakfast, I watched breaking news that was shown in every channel. CBS reported, NBC reported, Matt Lauer is fired because of sexual misconduct. I kind of like Matt Lauer. I like his program. He has been around for 20 plus years. But it's kind of shocking to me. And then I read all the article about his firing. I noticed a detail that many of you may not have noticed. He has been living apart with his wife for more than 5 years. And his wife tried to divorce him. What he did is he tried to pay his wife $5 million to keep her in the marriage. That's probably one of the biggest mistakes he has made. Because every human being has some basic needs for a romantic relationship. If the relationship does not work out, and you try to force it and try to pay somebody else to stay in it, it's not going to work out. Today, he's still living apart from his wife. And because he does not have the correct way to meet his romantic needs, he's ended up with doing a lot of silly stuff, sexual misconduct, and getting fired. Okay, let's go back to how a marriage is supposed to start. When people meet, let's call this John, this is Mary. And people tend to see each other, look at the good aspect of each other. John will probably say, hey, you're so beautiful, Mary. And Mary will say, hey, you're so handsome, John. And they always want to talk about the good part of the other person. They want to appease each other. And they want to do things together. Sometimes they even want to dress alike and put on the same eyewear. That's the beginning of the marriage. Most marriages start with a very nice honeymoon period, and then after you live together for a few years, you start to see each other's shortcomings. And then after a while, you have the kids come around and make it even worse. You have more stress, you have to take care of the kids, and the wife is paying more attention to the kids. The husband is not getting the same attention that he used to get. And then you start to have conflict. Sometimes the wife is not smart enough. Wife will be sleeping with the kids and don't sleep with the husband. That's an easy way to get to make the foundation of marriage deteriorate. Okay. So my point is, after I've done all this research, we all want to live happily ever after. But if the relationship does not work out, divorce is better than staying in a bad marriage. Okay, for example, most people, when they think of divorce, what they think of is this: people pulling apart, bad relationship, broken family, kids crying, and husband and wife fighting. That's the typical way of understanding of relationship. But there could be good results from the divorce. Because sometimes people grow apart, they have different interests. For example, one of the famous examples is Ronald Reagan. He used to be a third-class actor in Hollywood, but he's really interested in politics. His first wife has zero interest in politics. So they end up divorcing each other. And luckily, Ronald Reagan found a second wife who is really into politics, Nancy Reagan. That really helped him to become so successful in politics and eventually become one of the best presidents in this country. And I was reading the story about Nancy Reagan and Ronald Reagan, because Nancy Reagan, one time, she was suspected as a communist in Hollywood. So she has a problem. She wants to get this problem solved. She could have called Ronald Reagan or write a letter to Ronald Reagan because Ronald Reagan was the president of the Actors Guild in Hollywood. But she's very smart. She's asked him up for dinner date. So use this event, he got to know Reagan, and they immediately hook up and become such a good couple. So that means if you divorce, it's not the end of the world. You could have a new possibility, a new lease in life. You could have new hope in your life. So you could meet someone even better than your previous spouse. So, and I was so touched by the love story of Ronald Reagan. Every time when Ronald Reagan got home, the first thing he looked for is search for Nancy Reagan. That's how deep his love for Nancy is. And Nancy always take good care of him. So that's one of the good examples. And second example is, I read about it, it's a very famous example in Chinese culture. There's a very famous poet in China. His name is, it's too hard for you guys to remember Chinese name. I just call him Jerry. And his first wife is arranged marriage. It's Zina. His first wife's name is Zina. And he went to England to study in Cambridge. He got to know a very beautiful architecture student whose name is Lin. And he was in love with immediately fall in love with the architecture student because he said, oh, that's the first wife is arranged marriage. I don't want her. My parents forced me to marry her. I don't want her. Okay, and he fell in love with Lin, and Lin loved him. But Lin has a problem with him because Lin's mom was one of the second wife in a big family. So Lin does not want to become the second wife. So for this whole life, Jerry keeps trying to go after Lin, but Lin ended up marrying another fellow architect, which became a very famous architectural couple in China. And that in this relationship, eventually Jerry divorced his original wife. His wife picked up her own piece. Instead of crying every day to stay as housewife, she becomes so successful, get into the society. She becomes one of the most successful bankers in Shanghai. It's one of the most influential people in the Chinese culture. So divorce is not the end of the world if the relationship does not work out. So instead of staying in a bad marriage and hurting each other, become obstacle for each other, maybe it's better to divorce and each have a happy life and make sure the kids is good. Because sometimes people always use the excuse, say, I stay in the marriage for the kids. But if you're not happy, the kids will not be happy. So again, divorce is better than staying in a bad marriage. Thank you very much.
Oh.